we going to?
So we're heading to the airport for our flight to Beijing.
Yay, we're going to China!
China! Tonight we are staying in a transit hotel in Singapore airport en route to Beijing. It's pretty nice. It's pretty good experience. Check it out.
We are ready to board our next flight to Beijing.
We've just had some rest in the transit hotel in Singapore. Now we're waiting on our flight to Beijing. This morning we tried some interesting coffee. It's like black coffee with vanilla cream in a separate tub, and also sugar on like a stick that you put in and sort of melts in the whatever sugar does in the coffee. Anyway, we're boarding in a sec, so we'll see you in Beijing. Just arrived in Beijing, gone through immigration. They let me in the country, so I must be doing something right. And now we're going to take the train to
Get our luggage.
What are we doing here?
Oh, I'm charging my transport card. Let me scan the QR code to pay. There you
Wow.
go.
This is how we're going to pay for things in China, hey?
Yeah, exactly. Done. We've now got our luggage and waiting for the subway to get into the city. Finished our dinner now. There's more people on the street now and it's really getting windy. It was warm during the day, but right now it's really windy.
Hello.
I disappeared. Dead.
So it's our first night in Beijing. Don't know what I expected or if it's what I expected so far. It feels more developed like Vietnamese cities. And the trees are awesome. Yeah, it's still got that kind of old school charm to it. A bit of east and west combined. Going for a walk through the streets of Beijing on our second day.
Trying to find your Chinese school.
Got our coffees. We're all set. Just got myself a subway ticket. Now we're going for a bit of a walk through this shopping district. What's it called again?
Changi.
Yeah, it's really nice.
It's got all the shops and restaurants and everything.
Yeah, very walkable. Finally found a walkable area. Thought it was all just big streets.
It'll be pumping at night.
Yeah, we'll have to come back later. It's really nice. very nice.
Hi everyone, we have arrived in Beijing, China, and I haven't been back to China for 4 years since COVID, and you have never been in China before.
It's my first time.
Yeah. So,
we're going to give you our impressions,
particularly
my impressions of my first 24 hours in Beijing as a foreigner, as a new visitor.
Yeah.
So the first thing I noticed straight away when we arrived in China was actually getting off the plane. So normally when the seatbelt sign goes off and everyone's queuing up to get all their luggage out of the overhead cabins, normally the people behind you wait for you when you are getting your luggage out from the top.
Well, not always, sometimes.
But no, in China I noticed straight away you have to sort of stand your ground. Unless you actively step out and go to pull your luggage down, people just keep walking past, no one's going to stop. That was my very first impression getting off the plane. And then I remember when we went to get off and go up the escalator, just as we walked out of the plane, once again, we were lined up to go up the escalator, but there was a little gap of space in front of us, and then more and more people just kept coming to the side and squeezing in front of us. And I guess I learned straight away that you have to stand your ground when you're lining up for something in China.
I think every time I come back to China, that's the first thing I'm not used to. It takes me a couple of days to adjust, but then you'll get used to it pretty quickly. Let's hope so.
I can't do much about it if I can't. Walking around the streets of Beijing, they're very clean, very easy to get around. Some things I noticed, it's a bit of a free-for-all when walking down the footpaths, although Chinese people drive on the right side of the road. It seems the footpath is wherever you want to go, and it seems you have to do a bit of a dance with everyone you come up to on the footpath on who's going to go left and who's going to go right. So I found that quite interesting. Oh, another thing is that all the streets are all fenced off. All the building courtyards are all fenced off and barriered. Yeah, they really want you taking the proper ways for getting around. I think they're trying to stop bikes sort of riding into the building courtyards, and they're trying to stop people just walking across the road in random places, which I guess when you've got 20 million or so people makes a lot of sense. Street smoking, so not as bad as some cities I've been to in Asia, but yeah, still quite a lot of street smoking around, so I guess something not quite used to coming from Australia, where people don't really smoke in the street like that. Yeah, so that was something different to I'm used to as well, I guess. It still seems to be quite difficult for a foreigner to sort of get set up in China. A lot of things require you to have your full identity, getting yourself set up with WeChat Pay or Alipay, which basically any local restaurant now, a lot of them don't seem to accept cash anymore in sort of a smaller restaurant or smaller shop. So
they do. It's more common to pay with either Alipay or WeChat Pay, which are like two mainstream payment systems where you use QR code. If you are a foreigner with a foreigner passport, it'll be hard for you to have full access of these sort of services. For transport card, for example, you can just buy a physical card without any issues. You don't need any ID or anything. But if as soon as you wanted to upgrade it to a phone usable one, as in you can use your phone to scan it or tap it when you get on and off subways or buses, which I can do easily, but you can't because you don't have the national ID.
But in saying that, the subway has been very easy to use. It's been very, very easy to get around. The other things I've noticed, food and restaurants, I guess I've noticed this in a lot of Asian countries I've visited, but the price variations are just huge. So I think we had a beautiful breakfast for about $3 for both of us this morning. Had some
local, authentic taste.
Yeah, had some dumplings and some baozi, some jiuzi and baozi.
No, some baozi and xiaomai.
Lunch, we sort of went to a sort of shopping district I ended up getting a sort of single fish dish and it was about $60. It was really, really expensive. So then, which was nice, but then for dinner, we went to a sort of another sort of mainstream sort of Chinese restaurant, had a really nice dinner, ordered way too much food, maybe like 4 or 5 dishes, rice wine, all sorts of food. In fact, there was so much leftover food we had to bring half it back to eat for lunch tomorrow, and the whole meal was $40 for both of us. So yeah, just some really big variations in what things cost. I think you could live very cheaply here, or you could spend a lot of money here if you wanted to. One thing which shouldn't surprise me as my wife Katrina drinks warm water at home is that all the restaurants serve you warm water with your meal, no cold water here.
You can ask for it, but by default they just serve you room temperature or warm water.
Yeah.
Speaking of water, tap water is not drinkable here.
Oh yeah.
So you would always want it to either boil it, that's why we drink warm water, or buy your own bottled water to drink.
Another thing on vehicles, obviously a bit of a car guy, so I noticed some car related stuff here. There's heaps of EVs on the road, lots of Teslas. You can basically tell an EV because they have a green number plate. So many EV cars and all these indigenous Chinese cars as well, which are pretty cool. Cars that I don't think are sold anywhere else in the world, but they're here in China. It's nuts, the quality of the cars. They just look really cool in the interiors. They've got 3 iPads of screens and yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, it's all pretty nuts. So yeah, really cool. Can't wait to hopefully have maybe not drive, but have a seat in one of those.
One of the reasons why there's so many EVs in China, especially in big cities, is because the number plates are really hard to get for normal petrol cars in big cities. Like some people even need to wait for years. So the government is trying to encourage people to get EVs, and then they would hand out the number plates directly straight away.
Yeah.
Yeah, which made a huge difference.
There you go, some insider knowledge there from our resident China expert. Another thing we noticed, I don't know if this is only in Beijing, but often the cars are really filthy, dirty, and I think it might be because a lot of people have to park their cars on the street because they're living in apartments, and also like there's a lot of dust storms here, I've heard. Window tint, so this one is really interesting. I don't know if it's only in Beijing. A lot of people have window tint on their cars, but on the driver's doors at the front, the windows are only tinted up to, they leave about maybe a 20 centimetre gap at the front of the window where the mirror you look through from the inside to the wing mirrors. I think it might be like a vision, like a regulation or something, but yeah, you see the windows are tinted and then there's this gap, like it just finishes, the tint just randomly finishes like 3/4 of the way along the window, and then at the front there's this big gap. And yeah, I think it's, even if people don't have very dark tint, they do it.
People do it because they want to get as dark tint as you can throughout the whole, like maximize a dark tint.
Yeah.
And then there's a line where you have to stop so that you can see.
Yeah, it just seems like aesthetically it doesn't look good at all. So it's just funny how, yeah, I think in Australia people would either just run the gauntlet and just tint all their windows or just go with a lower percentage of tint.
Well, in Australia you had a regulation about the front window, how much percentage tint can you have?
30, I think.
Yeah, which is really
35.
low. Versus here you can probably tint it to like super dark.
Anyway, someone's tried to explain it. Neither of us have actually looked into the regulations in any way whatsoever. We'll see who's right.
I think.
With a Baidu search. Because I can't use Google. The other thing is that, yeah, if you want to get on the internet here, you definitely need VPN, because yeah, as a Westerner, it's quite interesting that yeah, pretty much most services you would use day to day, especially if you're using Google services or Facebook or Instagram or any messaging service you can think of. Yeah, they're all blocked, other than iMessage, which still works. Yeah.
Or just get WeChat and Baidu, you'll be fine in China.
Yeah. Oh, there's cameras everywhere as well. That's the last thing I forgot to mention. Literally, yeah, you'll see some streets, and at the top of the street there's just like 10 cameras just across the street. In buildings, there's, yeah, in new buildings they're much better. Like they're discreet with the cameras, so you don't sort of see them. But you look at old buildings and there'll just be like 5 cameras just pointed at you in the same direction.
Yeah, they're obvious because they want people to know that there's cameras there watching you, and so that people can't do dodgy things.
Yeah.
So it's mostly to keep you safe.
Yeah. So
And make you
thanks.
feel safe.
So yeah, great to have an explanation for my observations there. A proud Chinese woman
Well, that's what it is.
I've married. Anyway, that's it.
We'll make more videos into details of how you can get around China and food and culture and all sorts of things and language as well. So stay tuned. 谢谢. That's what I said. 谢谢,再见.
谢谢,再见.
Hi everyone.
Hi everyone.